7 men charged in Joshua David abduction, granted $500,000 bail each. 7 men at the center of the investigation into the abduction of Joshua David, known as Bricks, were jointly charged on Friday and granted bail of $500,000 each at the Georgetown Magistrates Court. Joshua David, who remains missing, was abducted on September 26, 2024, from Main Street, Georgetown. The accused, Aaron Aline, Katz, Wayne Barker, 34, Damian Barlow, 32, Dwayne Griffith, Sheep, 27, and Davantai Mars, 21, appeared before Chief Magistrate, A.G. Faith McGusty. The charges against 2 others, Alpha Pool and Osefo Peters, were withdrawn earlier. The 7 defendants are accused of abducting David with the intent to secretly and wrongfully confine him. The men, with their faces concealed and feet shackled, were not required to plead. The court hearing involved extensive discussions regarding bail, with the defense highlighting that the offense is bailable and the accused had cooperated with the investigation. Despite objections from the prosecutor, who emphasized the severity of the crime and the ongoing search for David, bail was granted with conditions. The defendants must surrender their passports and report to the Brick Dam police station weekly. Relatives of the missing Joshua David were visibly emotional after the court proceedings. The case has been adjourned to November 15, 2024. Police investigating alleged murder of quarantine fisherman. Police in Region 6 are investigating the alleged murder of 22-year-old fisherman Michael Jackson, also known as Junior, from No. 72 Village, Quarantine, Burbus. The tragic incident occurred on the night of October 10, 2024, around 9 p.m. at No. 76 Housing Scheme in Quarantine. The alleged perpetrator, identified as 27-year-old fisherman Terrence Simon Adams, also known as Black Brain, is reportedly the brother-in-law of the victim. Adams, who resides at Lot 219 4th Street, No. 76 Housing Scheme, is currently at large. Authorities are actively pursuing the case, collecting evidence and gathering information to uncover the circumstances surrounding Jackson's death. As the investigation continues, further updates are expected. Essequibo man pleads guilty to narcotic possession charge, sentenced to 30 months imprisonment. Nandram Dionarine, a 34-year-old laborer residing at Lot 326 Richmond Housing Scheme, was sentenced to 30 months in prison after pleading guilty to charges of possession of cocaine for the purpose of trafficking. Dionarine was arrested on Thursday by officers from the Suddy police station, following the discovery of 15.3 grams of cocaine in his possession. He appeared before Magistrate Tamika Clark at the Suddy Magistrates Court on Friday, where he acknowledged the charges against him. In addition to the prison sentence, Dionarine was fined $30,000. The Essequibo Coast remains committed to combating drug-related offenses and ensuring the safety of its community. 20-year-old serial burglar, sentenced to 7 years imprisonment. Nyack Alexander, a 20-year-old carpenter from Circuitville, Soesdijk-Linden Highway, was sentenced to 7 years in prison after pleading guilty to 6 charges of burglary and break-and-enter. Alexander was charged with 5 counts of burglary and 1 count of break-and-enter and larceny under the Criminal Law, Offenses, Act, Chapter 801. The charges were laid following his arrest by ranks of the Timeri police station. In the presence of the 6 victims, Alexander appeared before Magistrate Wanda Fortune at the Diamond/Golden Grove Magistrates Court, where he admitted to all the charges. He was subsequently sentenced to 7 years of imprisonment. Venezuelan National killed in Georgetown collision. Driver fails to stop. A fatal collision at the intersection of Camp and Lamaha Streets, Georgetown, on Thursday night has claimed the life of 21-year-old Venezuelan National Luis Natera, while his pillion rider, Yohannes Moya, 25, is hospitalized with serious injuries. The crash occurred at around 8:53 p.m. when Cleveland Peters, a 19-year-old driving a Honda Vezel, #PAG2470, failed to stop at the intersection despite the traffic light being on flash mode. Natera, riding his motorcycle, #CM8134, southbound on Camp Street, collided with the car after Peters did not heed the flashing red signal for his vehicle. The force of the impact sent both Natera and Moya flying into an empty lot nearby. Emergency services quickly arrived at the scene, where Moya was found conscious and transported to the Georgetown Public Hospital for treatment. Unfortunately, Natera was pronounced dead on the spot. The driver, Peters, was taken into police custody and served with a notice of intended prosecution. A breathalyzer test revealed no alcohol in his system. The investigation into the accident continues. Tragic accident claims life of 85-year-old man in East Coast, Demerara. The Guyana police force is conducting an investigation into a fatal accident that occurred this morning at approximately 8:30 a.m. on the Lou Res Souvenir Public Road, East Coast, Demerara. The incident resulted in the death of 85-year-old Stephen Correa. Preliminary reports indicate that motorcar number PG7093, driven by 58-year-old Garfield Hoppy, a carpenter from LBI, was traveling west at a high speed when it struck Mr. Correa, who was attempting to cross the road from south to north. Witnesses report that following the collision, Mr. Correa fell onto the roadway, sustaining injuries to his left hand, left ankle, and other parts of his body. He was assisted by bystanders and transported by ambulance to the Georgetown Public Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. The driver, Garfield Hoppy, has been taken into custody and is cooperating with investigators as they work to determine the circumstances surrounding the accident. The body of Stephen Correa is currently at the Georgetown Public Hospital's mortuary, pending a post-mortem examination scheduled for Monday, October 14, 2024. The Guyana police force extends its condolences to the family and friends of the deceased during this difficult time. Government to crack down on nice boys who sell state contracts. The government of Guyana is intensifying efforts to close loopholes in the public procurement system, targeting the growing issue of contractors who acquire government contracts and then subcontract the work. Minister of Public Works Juan Edgehill highlighted the problem during a recent ceremony where $6.9 billion in contracts were awarded to 389 small contractors in Region 6. Edgehill criticized individuals who win government contracts without intending to complete the work themselves, instead selling the contracts to others for a portion of the payment. He described a common scenario in which a contractor acquires a contract but then subcontracts the work to someone else, often resulting in lower quality projects due to reduced funds for the actual work. The minister emphasized that this practice undermines the integrity of the procurement system and leads to poor quality results. He warned contractors that the government will clamp down on subcontracting, with serious consequences for those caught engaging in this practice. The government has already issued warnings to public sector agencies to ensure strict compliance with procurement regulations as part of its commitment to improving the quality and transparency of public projects. Puruni Landing Fire originates from fuel station, Guyana Fire Service. A significant fire broke out at approximately 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday in the Miner's Choice area of Puruni Landing, impacting multiple structures, including a fuel station, guest houses, and storage facilities. According to a statement from the Guyana Fire Service, the blaze originated at a fuel station owned by Mr. Glaston Fiffy, 46, and Mrs. Alana Fiffy, 37. Preliminary reports indicate that a faulty fuel pump may have caused the incident, although this has yet to be confirmed. It is believed that workers were in the process of selling gasoline when the pump malfunctioned, leading to a fire that rapidly spread to nearby combustible materials and engulfed the station. The fire's destruction extended beyond the fuel station, affecting 3 guest houses, 3 storage bonds, 3 living quarters, 2 restaurants, 1 ice house, 1 boutique, 1 dwelling house, 1 generator room, and 1 variety store. In addition, several vehicles and equipment sustained damage, including 3 engines, 3 dredge pumps, for generators, 1 ATV, 3 XR motorcycles, 5 boats equipped with Yamaha engines, for trucks, and 1 pickup truck. At the time of the incident, 28 individuals were residing in the affected living quarters and guest houses, all of whom have been displaced due to the fire. Local miners and residents demonstrated remarkable bravery and community spirit by stepping in to assist with firefighting efforts using their mining equipment, such as water pumps. Their quick actions, alongside the Bartica Fire Station's deployment of light pump #A113, which drew water from an open source, were crucial in controlling the blaze and preventing further damage. The Guyana Fire Service is continuing to investigate the cause of the fire. Fortunately, no casualties or injuries have been reported, and the police are conducting interviews with involved parties and witnesses to gather further information. Murdered fisherman had long-standing grievance with suspect. Newsroom. Michael Jackson, also known as Junior, a 22-year-old fisherman from No. 72 Village, Quarantine, was fatally stabbed on October 10, 2024, by his brother-in-law, Terrence Simon Adams, also known as Black Brain. The murder took place at around 9 p.m. at No. 76 Housing Scheme, Upper Quarantine, Burbus. The fatal altercation stemmed from a long-standing grievance between the two men, which intensified in the days leading up to the tragedy. Jackson's mother, Radhika Rajkumar, shared that the conflict initially revolved around Adams' children. While the two men had maintained a good relationship for some time, tension arose when Adams, upset about how Jackson had handled his children during an outing, struck him with a cutlass days prior to the fatal incident. Rajkumar explained that Adams had brought his children to her house to stay, but following the argument with Jackson, he had taken the children and left. The animosity between the two men escalated, ultimately resulting in the stabbing. Selena Gobbin, Jackson's sister, recounted that Jackson ran to her after being stabbed and told her that Terrence bore he. Neighbors rushed him to the hospital, but he tragically succumbed to his injuries shortly after arriving. Adams remains on the run, and the police are continuing their investigation into the murder. Rajkumar is now calling for justice for her son. Bellviw Pump Station still within contractual period. Ministry responds to Stabroek news. The National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, NDIA, has issued a response following a report from Stabroek News regarding delays at the Bellviw Pump Station, which is being constructed by Tepui Group, a company operated by Mikhail Rodriguez, also known as Guyanese Critic. The Stabroek News article referenced the Auditor General's 2023 report, which highlighted that although $160.8 million was paid for the project, no visible progress had been made as of August 14, 2024, when auditors visited the site. In response, NDIA clarified that the project is still within its contractual period, and construction commenced on February 6, 2024. NDIA explained that an advance payment of $129.8 million was made following the submission of a mobilization advance bond. Initial work began with the construction of a cofferdam and the removal of an old sluice. These activities led to the certification of an interim payment of $31.06 million by the project's engineering consultant, followed by a second payment of $21.6 million after the supply of steel sheet piles and greenheart piles, along with the installation of test bearing piles. The agency stressed that the contractor remains on site, and the Ministry of Agriculture and NDIA are working closely with contractors and consultants to ensure timely project completion. Regular site visits by NDIA engineers and consultants are being conducted to ensure compliance with the contract's technical specifications. Auditor General finds over $5 billion in expired drugs and supplies to be dumped by Health Ministry. In his latest report, the Auditor General has revealed that the Ministry of Health is preparing to dispose of over $5 billion worth of expired drugs and medical supplies. The items expired between January 2023 and June 2024. This massive loss raises concerns about the Ministry's management of pharmaceutical stocks. The report notes that while a register of expired drugs was not presented for audit, the Ministry did provide lists of expired drugs already disposed of and those awaiting disposal at its Diamond and Ruimveldt locations. It was found that $3.2 billion worth of drugs had been disposed of, while an additional $2.332 billion worth remained to be discarded. The Auditor General recommended that the Ministry conduct a survey to accurately assess the realistic needs for drugs and medical supplies across health institutions and improve storage practices to prevent future expiration. It was also emphasized that all expired drugs should be disposed of according to food and drug regulations. Additionally, the report highlighted that as of December 2023, more than $5.5 billion in drugs purchased by the Ministry were undelivered. By August 2024, only $2.1 billion worth of these deliveries had been received. The Ministry attributed the delays to unexpected changes in demand and storage space constraints at the Materials Management Unit, MMU, bond. The Auditor General has urged the Ministry to hold suppliers accountable for adhering to contractual agreements to avoid further issues in the supply chain. 2 retired judges file lawsuit over retroactive salary and pension increases. Retired High Court judges Justice Franklin Holder and Justice Brassington Reynolds have initiated legal proceedings against the government of Guyana, seeking a judicial review over the denial of an 8% retroactive salary increase. This increase, which would have applied to their salaries dating back to January 1, 2022, has not been paid, affecting both their salaries and pensions. The 2 judges, represented by Senior Counsel Stephen Fraser and Attorney-at-Law Chantel Scottlaw, filed separate fixed-date applications, FDA, in the High Court on Thursday. Named as respondents in the case are Attorney General Anil Nandlal, the Judicial Service Commission, Senior Minister Dr. Ashni Singh, Finance Secretary Sukrashalal Pasha, and the Principal Assistant Secretary of the Finance Department of the Supreme Court, Asaf Ali. In their applications, the retired judges argue that as constitutional office holders, they are entitled to the salary increase. They claim the government's decision to limit the increase to public servants employed as of December 31, 2022, unfairly excluded them, thus impacting their pensions. The judges are seeking several declarations from the court, including one that the government's failure to pay the retroactive increase violates their constitutional rights, including equal pay for equal work and pension rights. Justice Holder is claiming a discrepancy in his pension, arguing he should be receiving $819,556 per month instead of $758,859. He is seeking over $5 million in outstanding payments. Justice Reynolds is making a similar claim and is also seeking $5.1 million in back payments. Both judges are asking the court to award them damages exceeding $100,000 each. Unlawful arrests and intimidation by police remain issues, says Complaints Authority Chair. In his 2023 annual report, the chairman of the Police Complaints Authority, PCA, Justice, Redded, William Ramlall, revealed that the Guyana Police Force, GPF, continues to face significant issues with the misuse of power, leading to unlawful arrests and the intimidation of citizens. The PCA received a total of 194 complaints against police officers in 2023, of which 119 cases were closed following preliminary investigations, 53 were rejected, and 22 are still under investigation. Justice Ramlall emphasized that many officers fail to understand their legal powers regarding arrests. Approximately 95% of police ranks interviewed by the PCA demonstrated a lack of significant knowledge about their authority to arrest, both with and without a warrant, leading to a substantial number of unlawful arrests. He also highlighted cases where Traffic and Criminal Investigation Department, CID, officers misused their powers of arrest for intimidation or personal gain. Another concerning issue raised by the PCA chairman is the failure of the GPF to remove officers charged with criminal or disciplinary offenses from active duty, despite the force's standing orders requiring their interdiction. In some instances, these charged officers settled matters privately with complainants, but Justice Ramlall pointed out that even in such cases, disciplinary action should still be pursued. To address these ongoing problems, Justice Ramlall recommended increased training for police officers on their legal duties and the fundamental rights of citizens. He stressed that proper understanding and adherence to the law are crucial to prevent further abuse of power and improve public trust in the police force. 5-year-old dies after explosion during parents' attempt to cut gas bottle. In a tragic incident, a 5-year-old child, Fayaz Sahid, lost his life after an explosion at his home in Prospect, East Bank, Demerara, on Thursday, October 10, 2024. The incident occurred around 4:30 p.m. at Lot 174 Prospect when his parents were attempting to use a total arc welding torch to cut a metal barrel into a barbecue grill. According to initial reports from the Guyana Police Force, the explosion occurred while Fayaz was in the veranda, a short distance from where the parents were working. The blast caused the barrel's top to blow out, striking the young child. Fayaz was quickly taken to the Diamond Diagnostic Hospital by his parents, but he was pronounced dead on arrival by Dr. Fingal. Police and emergency services were immediately notified, and an investigation into the circumstances of the explosion was launched. Regional Commander, Deputy Superintendent Wayne DeHart, along with officers from the Regional Division 4B, visited the scene. Preliminary examination of the barrel revealed a warning symbol for flammable material. The child sustained injuries to his left hand and head, which were consistent with the impact of the explosion. The police are continuing their investigation, and further details will be provided as the case progresses. Authorities urge the public to exercise caution when handling hazardous materials and to adhere to safety guidelines when using tools such as welding torches.